So whenever
Check,
you're
check,
ready,
baby. 1, 2, 3, check. Sound, check,
whenever
check,
you're
check.
ready, go.
Go. Welcome to South Omaha Speed. Got something for you special today. Got to do an interview with Bob Shukart. He's an 85-year-old gentleman, lives in Florida currently, but back in the day, he lived in Omaha, Nebraska, down in South Omaha. He was friends with all the guys that built this car when it was built. He helped run it in 56, I think a little bit in 55. Got some stories to share with, so we're going to give him a call and let him tell a little bit about the history of the coupe, the jacks, and a little bit what was going on back in the 50s in Omaha. So let's give a call. We'll be right back. Bob, how are you, sir?
Doing just fine.
Good, good. I appreciate you taking the time and answering your phone. That's awesome.
Hey, how excited I am about this. And, you're bringing back old fond memories,
That's great. I appreciate you taking the time and want to come on and share some of them with us. That's awesome. I know you spent a lot of time with the car back in the day.
I am going way back in the day.
85 years young, correct?
Yeah, I'll be 85 in September.
Just a young man. My goodness.
I know.
So,
My body says that, but body's too crazy as hell.
right. Understand. I'm feeling it myself, so I get it. Yeah, I was wondering if we could start off about your history with the car, like how you got hooked up with the guys down there in South Omaha at the old shop, and maybe a little bit about Howdy and Bob Hartwell. Talk about the coupe a little bit. Anything you wanted to share?
Well, it's interesting. Now, you guys, Howdy was known as Howdy Williams. His actual nickname is Howdy Williams. His real name is Henry Lawrence Williams III. Howdy and I went to school together. We didn't go. I don't think we went to grade school together. We went to high school together. We were high school buddies. I had a 52 Ford. He had a 53. We used to drag race down on the side streets with him. And he'd break apart and we'd fix it, or I'd break apart, we'd fix it, that kind of stuff.
You bet.
We've been friends for years, and in 50, I think, in 54 we started drag racing, and I can't remember if the jacks were put together in 53 or 54. Well, it was 53 or 54. And I would say it was probably in 53. And I was in 18. Howdy was 18, or not quite 18. And I forget. I think Howdy says, "Hey, we're getting the club together. Come on, let's join." And I said, "Sure." We went down there to across the street from the Sheedy Town Tavern, and it was so funny because we'd all go into the Sheedy Town Tavern and have a beer after the meetings, and of course, I was 18 or 19 years old. They'd ask me if this other kid was old enough. I said, "Oh, yeah, he's fine." I wasn't legal,
Sure.
But now it's came in from California, and he had this really bitchin' 40 Deluxe.
That was Bob Hartwell came in from California?
Yeah, he started the club. Hartwell started the club. And down there, what was it? You said it was on Castellar. It's down there somewhere.
29th and Castellar. The Dinkers bar is still there, but I think the Sheely Town Tavern was across the street that is now gone because the interstate went through, 480.
Oh, yeah, exactly. Yeah, that's right. But it was the Sheely Town Tavern, which is right across the street from the garage that Bob had his house in the shop that we met in his garage.
Did Bob live right there too?
What's that?
Did Bob live there too, close?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, as far as I know, that's where he lived. And it was a blast. I mean, Howdy got that car. I'm trying to think. Had to have been in 50. It probably was late 53 or, well, no, it was warm weather when I was working on it, so it had to have been spring of 54. And I don't know if it had a quick change in it at that time. I don't think it did because I'd say we bought that new Chevy, the 56 Chevy motor. It was a 265, and that was in early 56, or late 55, early 56, we bought that motor. And put it in the car with a Ford gearbox and the Ford rear end. So I don't think it had the quick change then. And I know that the deck lid was not louvered because I was hammering on the deck lid trying to get it straight. It had flattened up a little bit, and it was always in red. The car was always in red primer. I don't know what it had for a steering gear. I would guess the 34 Ford. And the Chevy was sitting up in the flathead location at that time. It wasn't way back in like the Oldsmobile was for Bonneville. So that was the service in July of '56, and after that is when it went to Bonneville and got the quick change, I'm sure, and I had the engine sent back so far.
When Bob Hartwell owned it, he first put an Oldsmobile in it, correct? Did he take that Oldsmobile out of his 40 Ford Coupe and put the drivetrain in this when he first built it in '54?
Well, no. Howdy and I put that car together. It probably had a rear end in it and a front end on it, and we got the Ford gearbox and got the adapter plate, put the Chevy on the adapter, and bolted it up to the Ford plate, and went drag racing with it. And of course, it was only a 265 at the time. I know it was because it didn't come out with 283s yet. What's 57? Anyway. And then when I went to the service, and then I don't know exactly when it went to Bonneville, but I would guess that Hartwell and Howdy got together and put it together as a Bonneville car to take it to Bonneville. I'm guessing. I don't really know.
You know, Uke Ondo had told me that they took the car in '55 with a Columbia 2-speed in it and broke the Columbia 2-speed in it at Bonneville.
That would have been hard. That was probably Hartwell before Howdy got it.
Right.
Yeah.
So Hartwell actually did the chop on the car, him and Servandy?
I don't know. I don't know who actually did the chopping on the car.
Yeah, I understand.
Didn't get in
right.
part of it.
I understand that Chuck Servandy welded the top on it, helped with the chop, helped Hartwell, and I think Howdy was involved as well.
Oh, he probably was, yeah. Yeah, he was, I don't know, you never got to know him because he was one hell of a guy.
Howdy?
Hell of a racer and just a neat guy. He helped me build my dragster and portions up there of it. And of course, I'm looking at your car and the old car. I'm going, oh, geez, And back then, we couldn't buy any brackets and stuff. We built everything. Anything and everything. I know that Hearst made motor mounts for an Oldsmobile on the front that bolt into a Ford chassis, and I used those quite a bit. I used one of those a bunch, but the Chevrolet there was an adapter plate to put the early Ford transmission on the Chevrolet, and one for the Oldsmobile and a Cadillac. Olds Cadillac were the same thing as far as the transmission adapter was concerned. What else can I answer for you?
Yeah, so as far as the Jack's Car Club went, you were one of the original members then, I take it, right? You and Jim Riddle and Servandy, and okay, very cool. You still got your plaque, you said, correct?
I still have a plaque.
Right, you ain't got an old jacket you want to get rid of, do you?
I have a replacement plaque. I was going to tell you this, don't ever get divorced because you'll lose all your good shit.
I'm on my second one.
I lost a ton of stuff, including my Jack's plaque, the original, but I have a replacement.
Right.
Bert Burns, people to get me a replacement.
You didn't keep your jacket, did you? I'm looking for a jacket.
No, I do not have one.
Did you have one back in the day?
I don't believe I did.
Okay, just curious.
Bruce?
You know, earlier I had talked to you, and you talked about when Bob Hartwell, Mouse, built the car originally and put the Olds in it, correct? And he built a special intake for it, is that correct?
That I don't know.
When he had that special...
I didn't know about the car. I didn't know about the car until Howdy got it.
Okay, gotcha. But do you remember the special intake that was on Hartwell's motor? The homemade intake?
Oh, sure. I bought the Hartwell motor.
Okay.
I had the Hartwell motor in my car.
Okay, so eventually the motor was in this car, ended up in your car.
Yeah, I ended up with the same motor that was in the 44 Ford that I had driven. Yeah.
And then it went into this. Then a small block Chevy went in. And then the motor went back into this right after Hartwell probably passed.
When Howdy got it, there was no motor in it. We got the Chevy and put in it.
Right.
And
did he end up with that?
And then I bought the motor from Howdy after I got back out of the service.
Right. And that's the motor he ran in this, correct?
I would guess it was, yeah.
Right.
Like I say, the clutch had been blown up in it, and he probably, I don't know where he blew it up, but we kept the motor and kept all the pieces, and we haggled her back together. Hell, I ran it for 5-6 years, never had a bit of problem with it.
Right. And that was that custom intake with 2 or 4 2-barrels on it?
Yeah, yep.
Very cool. You don't have that intake still, do you?
No. You don't like say when I emailed you today, the only parts I
Right.
got left with the headers off.
Right. Very cool. So tell us a little bit about your 32 3 or 5 window you cruise around in.
Well, I bought that car in Maryland. It is an original Henry Ford built 32 Ford, all steel car. I bought that car in Maryland in 1991, and it sort of looked like the picture that I sent you. Only sort of. It was bright red. It had an Econoline front end under it with the springs running front to back, and the wheels hanging out of the, well, they didn't hang out of the fender well somewhat. In the rear was a Tri-5 Chevy rear end with the springs running front to back, and the wheels stuck out of the fender wells about 1.5 miles. And it was in pretty rough shape. Didn't run, had a bad motor in it. But I bought it because I wanted it because it was an original car. It looked very similar to what it is now. If you notice in the picture, the top has been filled with steel. That was done back in the 60s when the car was originally built. I found some paperwork and some old stuff that said that it had been built in the 60s as a street rod, or as a resto rod at that time. And they did a super job on the roof. The side panels on the body and the back, everything was rotted out of it. I had to do, my story is we took 300 pounds of Bondo out and put new steel everywhere.
Sure.
The bottoms, the doors are built, the quarter panels are rebuilt, the entire back end from one side to the other is new. The corners of the body where they curl down outside the trunk, between the fender and the trunk, are brand spanking new, handmade by a guy in Toronto, Canada.
Wow.
Roadster quarters are not the same. They look the same, but they're not. And there is no Bondo in those corners. I don't think I gave you a good picture of it, but there's no Bondo in those corners at all. That's the way they were arrived with it, or how they arrived to me. And we primer, welded them on Bondo, a little bit of Bondo in the weld joint.
Sure.
But that's it. And
Well, keep those emails coming. I'm interested in your headers too. We'll have to arm wrestle over those. That would be awesome to put those on here and at least use the flanges and use as much bends or pieces of tubing I could to retrofit. That'd be awesome. So
my son has the headers up in Maryland, and it's buried in his garage, along with a set of 392 Chrysler headers, dragster headers, that are up there somewhere. He knows where they are. He'll find them.
Awesome.
And can certainly do that. That's I'd love to see that. I don't know. I'd like to find a motor somewhere and help you out with the damn thing.
Me too. We're still looking.
Anyway.
Very cool.
What else can I answer for you?
I think we're good, brother. I appreciate it. Thank you so much for your time. We'll be talking soon, I'm sure.
All right. Well, listen, I've been looking at your video on you're putting the body down on the frame, and then if I may make a couple of quick suggestions here for you.
Please.
You were sitting down alongside the drive shaft.
Yes.
Forgetting you got to have a radiator on it.
Say again?
And it depends on how you want to use this car, whether you put a solid radius rod in the back or you put one that'll rotate. Because if you're going to drive it on the street, the car's got to be able to move back and forth. And if you put or attach solid radius rods to the side of the frame, you put everything in a bind and you go around the corner.
I was thinking.
Anyway, it didn't matter then.
I was thinking about running a torque tube was my plan.
Well, yeah, but see, the torque tube, there was also radius rods on those that came up to the front of the torque tube.
Yeah, they're missing on this one.
They just sort of stabilized the thing. And what I'm saying, I can show you how to put a side-mounted radius rod on that won't put it in a bind.
Oh, okay, great. Yeah, I'll take any suggestions you got.
But what I want, I don't see, I don't know what you know about building stuff, and so I don't want to step on your toes or nothing. But take that frame, get it out, make sure it's level and square before you start mounting the body and the roll bars and stuff on it.
Right.
Otherwise, you don't know whether it's square at this point or level or anything, so
Yes, sir.
it's easy to do.
Yes, sir. We'll do that.
Build everything on the floor.
That's what we're doing here. So, yes, sir.
Well, and you would love it when we went to the Nationals, the fuel dragsters. Everybody towed their car outside. It was either on the ground or on an open trailer.
Right.
And they have closed trailers didn't come until the 60s.
Gotcha.
And you see these guys with their fuel cars. They didn't. Fuel cars back then. You just check the bottom end. You run the valves on the thing. You didn't have to build a whole brand new motor all the time.
Right.
And he'd be in the parking lots of the motels with the cars laying on the side with the motor taken apart. So you get the bottom end of them. It was more fun. But those were just awesome days and stuff. Anyway,
the good old days. You're doing a great job, but I appreciate you calling. Thank you so much. We'll talk soon.
All right, man.
Thank you, sir. Thank you. Bye-bye. That was Bob Shukart from Florida. Appreciate him calling in and answering the questions and talking about the car. Really blessed about that. I hope you like what you heard and seen, which you didn't see much, but heard him talk, which was pretty cool. So thanks for watching South Omaha Speed. And if you like what you're seeing, please subscribe to our channel. Thank you.